You would think now with all these revelations that are coming out through WikiLeaks and the latest document dump here, whatever you want to call it, that maybe the Clinton campaign shouldn't get ahead of itself, or certainly eyeing all the red states it is, or locking down an even bigger electoral vote majority to sort of not only run out the clock, but run out maybe those electoral votes. Former Bush 43 Deputy Chief of Staff Karl Rove here on that strategy, which seems to imply, Karl, that they can really run up some big numbers in the hope that that will run up the vote, a Democratic vote in key states, maybe even turn the Senate, possibly even the House. Obviously, that is the goal. But they might be a bit premature given some of these latest allegations that are coming through these WikiLeaks leaks. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it might be a little premature. I mean, let's think about this for just a second. The Clinton campaign is running television ads in these 7 states. That indicates that these are the states they're counting on, their battleground states. Here's where Trump is spending most of his time in 4 similar states: Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, shared on both lists. Now, he's also, he was in New Hampshire on Friday, but he hasn't been there for a while. He's going to be in Nevada, but it's going to be for the debate. He was also in Wisconsin, going to be in Wisconsin this week. He was in Maine in the 2nd District last week. But these appear to be the 4 states he's most concentrating on. Now, what does that mean? What that means is he's clearly focused on winning all of the Romney states, which include North Carolina. That give him 206 electoral votes. If he wins Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, that gets him to 273. That's a very narrow path, but it's a path. What they're trying to do is they're trying to take away North Carolina. So even if he wins Ohio, Florida, and Pennsylvania, he's at 258. If they play in Arizona and Georgia, which are the 2 red states that they look like they might play in, they could drive him down to 231, even if he wins Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Florida.
You know, Karl, the Clinton campaign is apparently all but saying it's over, that Hillary Clinton herself can afford to take a couple of days, even a few days off from the campaign trail to concentrate on a debate that would essentially seal the deal for her. The polls look very good for her, but I've seen candidates in similar positions who rue the day they started mailing it in. Tom Dewey comes to mind.
Yeah. Look, I think this may have been something else. I think they've made a conscious decision that she could be off the trail, focused on preparing for the debate, so she gives as good a performance as she could, because he's been snagged in all since October 7th. He's been snagged in all of these controversies over the original Hollywood Access tape, and then he last week did not go out on the offense against her. He did not go after her. As long as he's continuing to attack fellow Republicans or defend himself against these charges, they think they can keep her off the trail and then pop her out after the debate.
You know, Karl, I'm curious. I know you always remind me at this stage of the game, these national polls mean little. You go by the battleground states and how they're faring to get a sense of where the electoral vote is going. And you talked about Donald Trump's narrower path to winning this. But it's still a path. But is it getting tense? Because a lot of the Trump folks say, well, it's not nearly as bad as any of those polls show, that in those close battleground states where the gap is 2 to 4 points, we think that's ours, that the underreporting of Trump votes is rampant because a lot of people won't admit to being Trump voters. Do you agree with that?
I'm not yet convinced of that. I do know this, that his position in Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania has deteriorated, sometimes over the last 6 weeks, as in the case of Pennsylvania, in Ohio and Florida over the case of the last couple of weeks. So he's marginally worse off in all 4 of those states. He needs to carry Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania in order to have the easiest, that's the optimal path to victory. If he doesn't win Pennsylvania, which is the one that he's furthest behind in, he needs to make up 17 electoral votes by a combination of, Nevada with 6, and Iowa with 6, and New Hampshire with 4, and Maine 2 with 1, and toss in Wisconsin there with 10. I mean, it's get really complicated.
Right.
And the fact that he's not up on TV and not advertising and not driving home consistently an anti-Hillary message both on the stump and in his earned media and in his paid media is problematic. He needs to get on the offense and stop you know, this issue of it's a rigged election, that only appeals to the people already for him. He needs to grab some of the undecideds and convert some of the people who are weakly linked to her.
Yeah, and even if you argue that a lot of those Trump voters who won't admit being Trump voters, depending on the poll, it wouldn't be enough to swing 11 or 8-point gaps, but maybe it would.